If your neighbor accused you of witchcraft, would anyone believe you? If your trembling child claimed they saw you dancing with the devil, could your words save your soul? In a world where faith was absolute and fear was law, truth was whatever the frightened believed. This is the story of Salem, where darkness wasn't born in the forest, it was born in the hearts of men. In the winter of 1692, snow fell like ash upon the Puritan village of Salem, Massachusetts. The world was small then, wooden houses clustered by a frozen river, and the church bell tolling like a heartbeat against the silence. They were a people carved by hardship, their faith their shield against wilderness and sin. But that winter, whispers began, quiet, poisonous whispers, of strange fits, of spectral visions, of something unholy moving in the night. It began, as all great horrors do, with children. In the home of Reverend Samuel Parris, two young girls, Betty Parris, just 9 years old, and her cousin Abigail Williams, 11, fell into violent, inexplicable trances. They screamed without cause, contorted their bodies, spoke in strange voices. To the God-fearing eyes of Salem, such things could have only one explanation. Satan had found a foothold among them. The village doctor, unable to diagnose any illness, uttered the words that sealed a town's fate. It is witchcraft. And just like that, reason drowned beneath faith. Parris, a man obsessed with sin and salvation, demanded the names of those who had bewitched his kin. The girls, frightened and confused, looked to the adults, their faces expectant, terrified, and did what frightened children do. They spoke the names they had heard whispered in the fields. 3 women were accused. Tituba, the enslaved woman from Barbados, whose stories of spirits and omens had long unsettled the pious. Sarah Good, a destitute beggar who muttered to herself as she walked, and Sarah Osborne, a woman who dared defy the church by living outside its rigid order. All 3 would soon be dragged before the magistrates, their fates bound to the madness of a community spiraling into hysteria. The trials did not begin in the court. They began in whispers, in pews and marketplaces, in the smoke of kitchens and the hush of winter nights. Neighbors recalled grudges, families remembered slights, and as each name was spoken, the air thickened with fear. Tituba was the first to break. Under the lash and threat of death, she confessed to serving the devil, speaking not from guilt, but from terror. She told them what they wanted to hear, that there were witches among them, dozens cloaked in shadow. She spoke of spectral cats, of black dogs, of flight through moonlit woods. Her words spread like fire through dry tinder. Soon more girls began to convulse, to claim visions. Ann Putnam, Mercy Lewis, Mary Walcott, each cried out against their elders, claiming spirits tormented them, and every cry was believed. In Puritan Salem, to doubt a child's testimony was to doubt God himself. And so the adults obeyed the children. By June of 1692, Governor William Phips established a special court, the Court of Oyer and Terminer, to hear and determine the cases of witchcraft. Presiding were the stern-faced men of faith, Chief Justice William Stoughton among them. They entered the court not seeking truth, but proof of sin. The accused stood trembling before their judges, facing invisible crimes and spectral accusers. If they denied the charge, they were told the devil had stolen their tongue. If they confessed, they were condemned for consorting with him. There was no escape, only different paths to death. One by one they broke. Some confessed to save their lives. Others held firm, trusting that God would vindicate them. Bridget Bishop was the first to hang. They said she bewitched men with her bright clothes and laughter. On June 10th, she was taken to Gallows Hill. As the noose tightened, she cried out, "I am no witch. I am innocent." Her words were swallowed by the wind, but Salem was not satisfied. By the end of summer, 19 more would hang. One, Giles Corey, an elderly farmer, refused to plead at all. He was pressed beneath heavy stones until his chest broke. His last words, "More weight." They say the ground itself went still when he died. Fear became a living thing in Salem. It moved through the town like a plague, invisible but deadly. Wives accused husbands, daughters accused mothers, pastors accused their own flock. Those who spoke against the trials found themselves next on the list. Even Rebecca Nurse, a saintly woman of 71, beloved by all, was condemned. When she was found guilty, a hush fell over the court. If even Rebecca Nurse was a witch, then none were safe. The Reverend Cotton Mather, scholar and minister, urged caution, but his words were lost beneath the roar of hysteria. He would later write that the devil had made Salem his headquarters. But in truth, the devil needed no horns or fire. He wore the faces of ordinary people, blinded by fear, and above them all the gallows waited, silent and patient. The summer heat did not cool their madness, it fueled it. Each new accusation strengthened the illusion of righteousness. Each hanging was a sacrifice to their certainty. Spectral evidence, visions, dreams, shadows, was accepted as truth. If someone claimed your spirit tormented them, that alone could condemn you. It was a lawless faith, a holy madness, and as the trials grew, the jails filled. Over 200 accused, children as young as 5 chained beside the elderly, mothers separated from infants, husbands forced to watch their wives condemned. In the midst of it all, Tituba languished in prison. She had sparked the storm but gained no freedom, no redemption. She was forgotten, just another ghost in a growing graveyard. By the autumn of 1692, the fire began to dim. Doubt crept in at the edges of the hysteria. Respected citizens had died, families destroyed, fields untended. And still, the devil was nowhere to be found. When the wife of Governor Phipps was accused of witchcraft, the illusion finally cracked. The same men who had sworn to purge evil now realized the evil was of their own making. The court was dissolved. The execution ceased, but the damage was eternal. By the time winter returned, 19 people had been hanged, 1 crushed to death, and 5 others died in prison. The girls who had started it all slipped quietly back into obscurity. Some recanted. Others vanished from record, leaving behind only their screams. In the years that followed, shame settled over Salem like fog. The survivors haunted by guilt, the town itself scarred by memory. In 1697, the colony declared a day of fasting and repentance for the tragedy. The courts reversed the convictions. Compensation was paid to a few families, but no coin could buy back a lost soul. Years later, Ann Putnam, one of the chief accusers, stood before the congregation and confessed, "It was a great delusion of Satan that deceived me." Her words trembled through the meeting house like the echo of a ghost. But Salem could never fully cleanse itself. Its name became a warning, a symbol of what happens when fear wears the mask of faith. Centuries have passed, yet the spirit of Salem still lingers. Every generation finds new witches to burn, not with fire, but with rumor, judgment, and fear. The lesson of Salem is not ancient, it is eternal. It whispers through history that evil often begins not with monsters, but with the righteous convinced of their own purity. It teaches that truth dies when belief demands blood. In Salem, they hanged the innocent to prove they were godly, and in doing so, they made devils of themselves. So if your neighbor accused you, if your child pointed their trembling finger, would you speak truth, or would you, too, light the fire? Because in the end, the real witchcraft of Salem was not in the spells or the spirits, but in the terror that turned ordinary hearts into instruments of death. And when fear became law, innocence had no place to hide. Salem was never just a town, it was a mirror. And every time fear triumphs over reason, that mirror shows our reflection still.